Today at the Hot Poll we're going to be comparing this with this and this and this and this and this and this and this. Let's get going. So I've been at home all week with the new baby, and I've been thinking about videos that I can make while I'm here that don't make any noise. And so my mind turned to VST, or virtual guitar amps, and heavy tones. So I figured I'd do a bit of a shootout, which is what I've done today. I found quite a few of these that were free, a few of them that were either not free or just not cheap at all, but it's interesting to see the differences here. So I figured this is just a heavy tone today, nothing clean for this particular video. I might do clean in the future if there's enough demand for it, but I started off with the TSE X50, which it's a PV50 150 in an amp sim, and then I thought, well, I wonder what I can get that compares to that. So as much as possible, I've tried to use emulations of a PV50 150. So there was the X50 for that. There was the Thermionik PSYCHOA, which is based on a 5150 Mark I. There was one by VADIM TARANOV, which I hadn't heard of before today, the heavy 5150, and that one really quite impressed me, especially considering it's free. What else was there? I wanted to do Amplitude, but I didn't have a license for it for the 150 stuff, so I might revisit that in the future. What else did we have? So we had Positive Grid's Bias Amp 2, which is fresh out now, which I used the 5153 preset, which is as close as I could get to a 5150. I mean, hey, if that's not close, what is? Then we started to get onto amps that aren't exactly trying to emulate a 5150, but are still in that heavy amp range. So we've got the PRS Archon amp from Waves. We've got the EMISSARY from Ignite Amps, which is another free amp. We've got the LEXTAC from LEPOU. I originally considered using his LEPOU, which is a dual rectifier, but the dual rectifier really is its own beast in terms of an amp, so I didn't really want to go the dual rectifier kind of route. And last but not least, pretty much the day that I decided to film this, Blue Cat plugins decided to release their free amp, which has a modern drive, which is kind of their heavy metal. So I threw that in just for a laugh. Now, to try and keep this test fairly repeatable, I didn't use any of the cabinet emulations in any of these at all. If there was a cab option, that went off. So I used the same cab setup for each, which was 2 notes wall of sound, and hey, I'm a 2 notes guy, and I used my own cabinet, so I used the Big Beast, which is the 4x12 with an SM57, combined with the big boy redback speaker, which is 2x12 with a 421. So the 57 and 421 classic combo, bit of a brighter speaker, bit of a darker speaker, and I really quite like that combo. In terms of EQ, there isn't any. In terms of a bit of kind of nice saturation, I've used Kazrog's new True Iron plugin. This is the first time I've used it, and it's very subtle indeed. In fact, it really just adds a certain organicness, but seeing as though I hardly used it, I didn't crank the controls, and I've used it equally on every guitar amp, that shouldn't affect the results because it's exactly the same every time. And what else? That's it. That's the entire chain. There's nothing on the master bus for the mix. And so we're going to play back now a section that's got some heavy chugs and some silence in between. I've not used any of the gates on the amps. The reason being, I find the gaps in between tell you a lot about how a virtual guitar amp works. Some of these, because I used a really high quality DI box and a really good interface and everything, when I stop playing on this ultra high gain tone, on some of these amps it's silence. All you can hear is me fidgeting with a little bit of kind of touching the strings, which on a super high gain tone you would kind of expect, and that's why you would usually manually edit that or use quite a heavy gate. But some of them you can hear quite a lot of hiss. And that seems to be the way that the amp sims work, especially some of the older ones. Of course, I'm playing it with a mix with a vocal and everything in it as well, just to give you an idea of how each of these guitar tones without any EQ works with a vocal and with the rest of a mix, and how it fits or doesn't fit, might need some extra work. I mean, depending on your playing style and all that kind of stuff, you might make it work a little better, but it's trying to be a controlled test. If I revisit this in the future, I'm probably going to do the same again, but also include a real 5150 in there, using a 2 notes captor, but using the Wall of Sound plugin, and use that as a back-to-back just to see what difference that makes. I think that would be quite interesting. And at some point I'll pick whichever one I thought was my favourite of these amps, but I'm not going to do that in this video. That's up to you to decide. And I'm going to take that one, and instead of changing the amp, I'm going to change the cab. So I'm going to reamp it through a real cab, I'm going to use Wall of Sound, I'm going to use a load of different impulse responses, maybe even some different impulse loaders. And we'll see how that goes. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and there's going to be plenty more coming. I've got loads of videos in the works. So hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. And yeah, help us out on Patreon so that I can do more of these kind of videos while supporting this little poopy potato. And thanks for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.
Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this, feel free to check out our other videos, as you can find here, or check out our Facebook and Twitter, or our Patreon page, which helps us to make more videos like this. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.